Let's go.
Hi guys, I'm Tony, founder of World Divination, also known as the Card Geek on social media, and today we are looking at Therapeutic Lenormand. How you can use your Lenormand cards to really work through a few things within self. If you know me, you'll know I am a great believer in the Four Selves model. The Four Selves model teaches us that we are beings that are human but also spiritual in nature. We may often forget that we are spiritual and get bogged down with the daily stuff. The Four Selves teaches us that we have our emotional self, where we store our human emotional patterns. We have a conscious self, where we store our conscious thought patterns. We have the physical self, which we can touch. And we have the superconscious self, which is our higher self, or the one that is connected to everything that is spiritual. In the Four Selves model, we are taught that the human side of self, which is the three selves, the conscious, the emotional, and the physical, often store patterns, store behaviors, store reactions to issues of our past or issues from past life or karmic events or even ancestral. So that's a lot of patterns to deal with within self, and you may have wondered at times why you act in a certain way, why your emotions rise perhaps when there's something around you, and why your thought processes go off on a million tangents when a given situation arises. And that's what we're going to have a look at in a Grand Tableau today. We're going to use the cognitive behavioural therapy model to work within the three selves that are actually human: the conscious, the emotional, and the physical. We're going to see what kind of triggers we have coming up at those levels, and we're going to see if we can work with those to give an advice to our querent on the best step forward. I have removed the man and lady from our deck, and I have a double deck shuffled together. The reason I use a double deck for these situations is because we don't all have triggers. And if you lay a 36 card Grand Tableau, you are going to get those trigger cards in there, whether it be the whip, the scythe, birds, etc. They're going to land within your spread. If you have a double deck or even a triple deck, you are lessening the probability of those difficult cards falling, also heightening the possibility of positive cards falling, and you have that double option of triggers coming in, the double option of everything's all right coming in. I do have a piece of paper out because I just wanted to show you how in the CBT and in the Four Selves methods, how it all works together. We have our superconscious self, which is our higher self, the connection at source. We then have our conscious self, which is, we typically think of that within our brains. We have the emotional self, which we typically think of as our gut, our intuition, and any other welling emotions. And then the physical self. In order to reach the superconscious or live in a superconscious state, we have to have zero triggers at the conscious. So our thought processes are not allowed to kick in that normal human way. So when a situation occurs, we will have a standard reaction if we have any triggers at that level. What we're trying to do is create a situation where our conscious thoughts don't tell us that there is danger involved or that we need to react in any way. At the emotional level, we also have to have zero reactions, zero triggers. This means that both our human selves of conscious and emotion are clear, which means we can access that superconscious information. The moment we have triggers on this level or the conscious level or the emotional level, that's when the physical reactions will kick in. Our behavior will change due to either an emotional trigger, either getting super upset, super angry, or even super happy, because that's still a trigger. And the conscious mind, the same thing. Those conscious thought processes of this is not safe, somebody's being snaky, all the conscious decisions we make based on the situation. If anything comes in at those levels, if we rise in any way at those levels, you'll see on the physical level a reaction. The physical level could be a fight or flight response. Anxiety could be handshaking, for example, or becoming ill. And our conscious mind and our emotional mind can make us very poorly at times in the physical from the stress of these two things. So what we're trying to do is use the CBT model, which is the cognitive behavioral therapy model, to actually create a zero response at conscious and emotion. So there's a zero response at the physical level too. So how does that look, and how do we deal that within a Grand Tableau? We take a significator out for ourselves. I'll use the female, and we think of our querent, our client, or ourselves, and we set the intention to do a CBT Grand Tableau, and we count out 35 cards. Lay the rest of the deck away, and we shuffle in our significator, and then we lay a standard GT. It can be any of your GTs. I'm going to use the 8x4 plus 4 just for that standard look that everybody is used to. The first thing we look for is our significator for the person that we are reading for. The higher up the spread, the more the emotional self is involved. The lower down the spread, the more the conscious self is activated. As we see, our querent sits right down at the bottom of the spread, which means our querent has more triggers or more issues in the conscious self than they do in the emotional self. We actually only have that line of fate in the emotional self. That tells me that they are pretty going with the flow as far as their emotions are concerned, and the emotions don't really jump into a situation as much as the cards above in that conscious position. What we're going to take a look at is we're going to use the both sides of the spread as a different part of this therapy. I read in a directional manner, which means with the lady, our left hand is the forward facing. So I read from the right hand side of the spread through to the left hand side because of that directional cue. And we're going to split the spread into two halves behind the querent's back and then in front of the querent's face. We're going to use the back portion as the behavioural effects of the triggers, and we're going to use the front space as those physical effects on the querent. So remember, with CBT we have the conscious, we have the emotions, we also have behavior, and we have the physical and how that manifests within us. I'm going to put on screen the trigger cards. These are the negative cards from the Lenormand deck that can refer to triggers of a certain order. For example, triggers to do with betrayal will be our snake card. Triggers to do with doom and gloom are our coughing card. The whip card is our conflict card. The lilies actually becomes a trigger card when it is sat beneath the querent. On this occasion we won't need it, but the lilies beneath is that negative of looking after self and ego when it is sitting beneath the querent's card. So let's have a look at this lady sitting right at the bottom, and over her head immediately she has a conscious trigger. She has the doom and gloom of the coffin. So you can set this spread, for example, to see how you behave or how your selves react in any given situation. So this would refer to a situation had we sent that before. As it stands, we're just looking at the pure conscious triggers, emotional triggers, etc. to work through her situation. So above her head, she has doom and gloom. So we know that when situations occur, our querent goes into a negative mindset. Could even be one that is concerned about death. We do have people in the world who are worried about dying, for example, and that comes up as a trigger in the conscious mind. We also have another trigger next to it with the clouds. The clouds is our card of chaos. Those thunderclouds rustling in to create chaos within the conscious mind. It's also sat in the behavioural side of the spread. So when a given situation occurs, the querent goes into conscious doom and gloom. In their mind, they cannot at all access any kind of superconscious because they are too concerned at what is going on and their thought processes therein. The clouds in there shows that total confusion when a situation hits. So imagine the querent, and we'll use the snake as an example because that's actually in the physical. If the querent had issues where they didn't trust people, for example, and we were using that as a situation, as soon as one of those situations occurs where they don't trust, and I use that as well because of lilies above clouds, they're instantly going into a doom and gloom situation in which they cannot think rationally with that clouds in the mix. Their feelings are quite fluid with the ship beneath. The ship is our card, it's a practical card of trade and commerce and money coming in. But in the emotions sector, it's almost like telling yourself within your emotions, I'm going to do great. I am going to do it. No matter what they're doing, no matter what doom and gloom's in my head, I'm going to stay strong and do my thing. I am going to be the best at what I do with that ship card beneath. It can also show, if you use the movement interpretation of ship, that she flows through those emotions. However, we do hit that whip then in the bottom left hand side. So we can't discount that we also have a trigger down at this bottom left hand side in emotion sector. So when the situation hits, first thing she does is run with her emotions, which is that movement of the ship, but it moves into conflict, and conflict within the emotion zone is quite a nasty card. It means that we are ready for battle in that position. So you can see already that this conscious mind, when it kicks in, because that's the one that kicks in first because it's directly above her head. When that kicks in, firstly, her emotions actually don't put any spanners in the works with that ship, but she does move into that direction. So the first thing when a situation occurs, it's her thought processes then that are driving the emotions and turning her into that conflicting position where she is ready for battle in her emotions. And that's only looking at a couple of cards around her already. So what happens at these stages? We can see above, any incoming information is seen as important. Now, what we learn with the CBT model and with the Four Selves model is that everything is information. For good or for bad is information, and it is our choice whether we react at the emotional or the conscious. So what we can see is a situation where negative or losses, negative information is coming in, the querent's heightening that as an important thing, which means that her thought processes then get into this negative mindset. So we can see that from the top weighing down on our querent. On a behavioural aspect, we have Moon directly behind her back. So she tries to do the right thing. She tries to keep her emotions balanced with the house below. She tries to do her own thing, even when her mind is actually showing her that she can't trust the people around her. She reminds herself with Child behind her back that there are good people in her life. But below that we have the emotional factor of Scythe, which is also a trigger card, showing that albeit that she tries to do the right thing and act in the right way and consider that she has really good people around her with the Child, the Scythe beneath her in emotions shows that it kicks in even back here. So if you think of the flow of the spread this way, we're identifying what her issues is, and then we're saying how it actually arises and how it comes to that. And the line of sight, which is the line in which your querent sits, will always tell you the actions, what is happening to the querent in these situations, even when we're looking at the CBT or Four Selves model. So if we take it further back the spread to the beginning, we can start the storyline of what happens. And in this right hand column, we can see that we have dog and ring together with anchor. We start the story off with some really good friends. We have the clover in there suggesting that perhaps a little bit of spontaneity on the querent, on this friend's side, brings into the querent something that they see as wrong. So they are viewing the behavior of their friends as something wrong. However, she then justifies that with the Tower, saying, well, we've been friends for a really long time. They're still a good friend. Well, I'm committed to this friendship. Not so sure about the decisions that they are making, and they're making a lot of them with fish, the abundance of fish, but they've still been a friend for a long time, and I have really good friends around me that I believe, I can trust, I love those friends, but wait a minute, I really am against whatever decisions they are making. Which leads to that emotion kicking in of this is not safe. And that's a stored pattern of emotions, which means this is a situation that's happened before, or trauma from being young, or trauma from past lives that's kicking in, even though they're telling themselves and feeling that everything's all right. The emotions are kicking in, saying, wait a minute, there's danger here. And at that point, they really try to keep their viewpoint of everything is safe, I'm all right. Moon is the respect of the moon, I will do the right thing. But then the conscious mind kicks in. And the conscious mind is saying, oh, wait a minute. I'm not sure if I can trust this situation. This is a situation that is actually detracting from the trust that I hold within this relationship. And then you see that information coming to her from the friends, so perhaps a conversation occurs, for example, that hits this rider, and she says, whoa, this is like really important. And that doom kicks in. And when that doom kicks in, they try to keep themselves buoyant in the emotions, but it does kick in and they move forward into the emotions of whip. But together with those emotions of whip, that conflict within, we see from the head movement, so what's happening within her head, she's swinging between they're actually good people and they're not. Good people, snaky. Good people, snaky. All in that conscious mind. So this clouds is sending those ruffles in, leading to that doubt of whether there is trust there or not. And then her conscious mind keeps flipping between the two. So then as we move along, and this is where it hits the physical on this side, the cards above will still be that conscious and how it affects in the direct line of sight, that physical of the querent. And if we look at her physical cards, we have bouquet, letter and fish. They're positive cards, so that we don't have trigger cards within the physical. And like we see behind her back, she's actually trying to act and be, and within the physical, not let it touch her in any way. Yes, her emotions are betraying her. Her thought process is betraying her, making her more human rather than spiritual, so you can get that spiritual information. She would have the answer to child and snake, whether they're snaky or whether they're child, if these emotions didn't kick in and if this thought process didn't kick in, because she could be a clear channel to spirit then and get that information. But as it stands, she can't be, because her head continues it. On a physical level, she's trying to be positive. She's trying to put out there positivity and the fact that she would like to talk about said snaky information that she's got or thinking in her head. And then we have star above and fox. So if you add those all down, she actually wants to find a direction to whether it's just a mistake in the fox is wrong, a mistake, a bit of deceit, or whether it's true betrayal to her relationship with her friend, but she is willing to talk about it. And then move into that fish, that abundant state of friends and gardens. So she's open to discussion. It does cause her pain with the cross in the mix, but she's very much open to that discussion. As you see, what I've done is I've run from the right hand side to the left hand side at all times, detailing the conscious mind and what it's doing, the emotions and what they're doing, how she's behaving, how it's affecting her on her physical level, where the story came from, so where it began, and how she then is moving forth with it. If you really want to help your querent, you would then lay a GT on how to remedy this. how to make or help her clear that conscious mind, how to clear that emotional self in order to have those answers from spirit. And that's what we all want to do. At the end of the day, in any situation that causes any emotions or any thought processes to kick in, we are instantly not connected to spirit then like we should be. We are not getting that clear way forward. We're not getting that clear answer on whether that person is snaky or whether it's just a mistake and, shit happens. So working on ourselves leads to a much clearer sense of self. It also leads to peace. Peace within your emotions, peace within your conscious self, and peace in that beautiful connection that we have to spirit. If you are interested, Ho'oponopono is a great way of working through conscious and emotional self issues and opening up to superconscious. I have a free course on Ho'oponopono on the World Divination website. Go to worlddivination.com and click on online courses. If you want to learn more about Therapeutic Lenormand, I have a course that is available on worlddivination.com under the online courses called Therapeutic Lenormand. It teaches you more about the cognitive behavioural therapy use and Lenormand. There are new spreads in there too. We learn about the 4 selves and use a 4 self spread. We learn about past life triggers. We learn about karmic triggers. We also learn about ancestral healing and how we can remedy any situation that is a trigger from the past, whether it be past or past lives, karmic or ancestral. We learn how to remedy those using your Lenormand deck. All you need is 2 decks to play with and run through the lessons. So have a look at that, worlddivination.com. Brand new course, went up yesterday and is available at, I believe, $15 off. So I think it's on there at $45 at the moment. Otherwise, I will see you here on YouTube as often as I possibly can. If you have any requests for videos, whether it be with Lenormand, Kipper, Tarot, or anything else, put them in the comments and I will try and get those done for you.
Let's go.